Hey, and a warm welcome, everybody, whatever is morning, afternoon, or evening in your part of the world. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jordan, and I'm thrilled to be your host for today Microsoft Reactor event series.
And hello, everyone. My name is Adi Stein. I'm leading the digital and app innovation across Southeast Europe at Microsoft. With us, we have Moria Dror, which is the regional director PM.
Before we dive into the main event today, I'd like to brief anyone about the Reactor. Whoever is new to Reactor, reactors are regional community hubs that Microsoft owns in 12 different locations. We have online and in-person events worldwide, but we also offer programming online, so you can join us from wherever in the world you are, different time zones. All you need to do is just scan the QR here and visit us. You can also share in the comments where you're joining us from. Microsoft Learn, for who is not aware of it, is a free learning platform that offers you free learning opportunities in different areas. You can scan the QR code right now on the screen, and we will share later in the comments also the URL link.
We also have Microsoft Learn, which is enable you to learn different kind of technologies through engaging and entertaining opportunities. There is those learning paths each learning path include models where you can try to develop new skills on sandbox through tutorials. And we also have dedicated learning hub for AI that conclude all of the relevant new technologies about AI, whether it's responsible AI using LLMs, and everything that you need to know about developing new intelligent application with AI. So we are wrapping up today the long journey we had over the last few weeks with developing applications, developing productive application or leveraging and including AI into your application. We started off with 3 sessions with GitHub folks about developing application end-to-end on GitHub. We learned about GitHub Copilot. We learned how to develop secured application. We drill down into AKS and containers. And today we're gonna conclude this session with an amazing session about LLM for software developers. So if you missed the previous session, it's you can still log in to the landing page with all of those sessions and watch them on demand.
So just a quick reminder, everyone, about the Reactor Code of Contact. Our aim is to cultivate positive and inclusive environment for all of our participants. So let's keep our interaction respectful and supportive. You can scan the QR code here and register for our events and learn a little bit more about what's going on here in Microsoft Reactor.
So I hope you're ready, because I am. I'm really looking forward to this session today. We're going to start off with Daron Yondem, which is the tech lead for application innovation at Microsoft in in CIMA, Central Europe, Middle East, Southeast, and Africa. So thank you so much, Daron, for joining us for the second session in this series. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, the time is short, so that's why I start from the middle of my deck, because my deck is really large, and I want to use this time the best way possible. We have 25. Oh, we actually have 30 minutes. It looks like okay. I got an early start. That's good. That's a good thing, because we have a lot to cover, and there isn't going to be a lot of slides. But first, we have to cover a little bit of foundational pieces, just to be on the safe side, right? And I'm not gonna talk about myself, but you can see the allies on there. Maybe something else that I can show momentarily is, give me a second. There we go. Oh, it's unfortunately being overridden. That's okay though. So if you go out there and look for my name and last name, you're gonna pretty much find me everywhere you look for in terms of the social platforms. Okay, so what do we have? So I know we're going to talk about LLMs, but I wanted to, bring the big picture. So as you can see on the screen right now, we actually have different layers of AI when it comes to it. And I'm just going to give 30 seconds to this, but the higher level, when you look at it, those both service, cognitive search, document intelligence, and all of that stuff, as you can tell, they are very razor focused to particular use cases. So that means, hey, we know that this particular business problem that we have, the use case that we have, is something that can be solved with AI, and there are turnkey services to just do that. Example, document intelligence. Hey, I just have some passports. I want to scan and be able to extract names, last names, and all that stuff. Hey, I have some invoices. I want to be able to extract some stuff from it. I mean, I know I kind of make it sound like easy, but at the end of the day, if you look into the underlying layers, it's like, OCR, image recognition, and all of that stuff that relates to AI. But today we're kind of used to it because, we know that AI can do that. We know that the confidence level in terms of the success we get out of that process is good enough to implement these technologies into day-to-day life, right? So, and instead of going and messing around and trying to, connect different pieces and so on and so forth, what we can do is just simply focus on applied AI services, which is the top stack you see on this slide deck. We simply go in there, grab the tool, and get it done. That's it. You don't even have to know anything about AI, to be honest, when it comes to the level 1, let's say, the higher level services, the applied AI services. Then we go one level down. Now, and that is where LLMs fit into the picture as well. And you can see that the names that we are using for these services are more generic, which means, hey, vision, speech, language, they don't necessarily map to a particular use case or, business need, right? They're more of the foundational pieces that we can use to bring in and solve problems for the businesses that we are in or we get to, right? So that's one layer, and that's where LLM comes in. So large language models, as the name suggests, those are language models. Those are generating language. Those are about language. There are multimodal stuff that we're not going to get into. We don't know what the future holds, right? In terms of, LLM, some might argue that it has a level of intelligence in it as well, but we're going to step back and for now look at it as an LLM, which is large language models. That's what they do. They understand language and they create language. That's what they do. Okay. So one level down is Azure Machine Learning Studio. And that's where you go geek out, essentially. The whole data science and machine learning, the science essentially comes in, right? You want to run your own ML experiments. You have a question in your mind. You're not sure if that's doable, that you're not sure if you're going to be able to answer that question with AI or ML, and you just want to experiment because you don't know if you have enough data or the right data or whatever, right? So you can start from the beginning to the end and run the full ML spectrum. Data science experimentation spectrum, let's say. So that's the Azure ML infrastructure. And that's kind of important as well. And the lines between those are kind of getting a little bit blurry, right? ML Studio, I can bring in LLM stuff. I can bring in some of the LLM models because sometimes, yes, the LLM, we know that it can understand language, it can output language as well, but that there are use cases that we still kind of want to experiment, if we can solve with LLM. So when it comes to that experimentation loop, sometimes we bring in the model into Azure Machine Learning and kind of run our experiments there, and sometimes we even use something called prompt flow. I'm just kind of putting out some keywords in case you're taking notes and would like to do further research so that you get a little bit of a bigger picture. But what we're going to focus for the rest of the session is how you can use an LLM in your application today if you wanted to, and how you can ground them, because that's the biggest problem. Right? Hey, I'm asking a question, the model doesn't even know about things that happened since last year, right? Or, it's hallucinating, right? Or I simply have some data that I want the model to be aware of, and how can I make that happen really quickly? And how can I bring up-to-date data? Or sometimes skills. I'm not going to touch into the skills for the sake of time. We're not going to do a demo on it. but you're going to get the full picture in terms of how you can do all of these pieces. Okay. So before we get, I believe I'm going to show one more slide and then we're going to be done, which is going to be this. Let me skip. There we go. Not this one, not this one. Yeah, this one. Okay. Retrieval augmented generation. The hype, the big thing. Everyone is into this because this is the most quickest way right now. And, not that there are millions of choices, but this is the pattern that we use today to bring up-to-date information into the model. Okay. So let's look at the flow on the slide right now. There's a question that we have. This is a text question, right? Think about like you're asking a question on ChatGPT or whatever, chat interface, and you're interacting essentially with the LLM. So in this case, this can be an app, wrapped with an app or whatever. So there is a question, and we want to answer the question. But when we give the question to the LLM, it is going to answer it somehow because its job is to create a text. Whatever confidence it has, it doesn't necessarily expose that to us, but its job is to create some kind of text, right? So if we go directly to the LLM, what we get out, we might be happy with it or not, but it doesn't have the context that we can bring in. For example, you can bring in maybe the latest news into the context. You can bring in the data from your corporate data set that is not even exposed to the outside world. It's just corporate data. It's just in your company. But you want AI, the LLM, be able to answer the question that you have in the context of additional data that you have, and you want to bring in the right data into the context because we know that we cannot bring all of the data. I mean, it's doable. It's a different approach. It works in a different way, fine tuning and all that. You're not going to touch into that, but it costs a lot and it's not the right approach for every scenario. When it comes to bringing my own data and asking a question in that context, retrieval augmented generation is the best right now. So it looks like we have a couple of problems. First, I want to bring in data that makes sense in this context, in the context of the question. And the second problem is I should be able to find the matching data that makes sense for that particular context. So if I'm asking about the weather, you're going to bring weather information. If I'm asking about finances, you're going to bring in data from the financial database in your company. If I'm asking something about HR, you're going to bring, HR data into that context. You have to be able to figure that out. So we put the data somewhere and then we go and look. That's pretty much what we do. And for that, we used a different type of search index. We call it vector databases. Semantic search is another one. So we have the question and we go into look into database and try to figure out what is semantically from a language perspective, what is from a meaning perspective, right? Semantically closer to the question that we have at hand. We find that, we bring that in, we join that, combine that with the question that we have. Like, here's the context that I found, here's the question that I have. Now I can go to the LLM and say like, hey, that's what I have. Give me what you have. This is the context, this is the question. So then there's a little bit of a prompt engineering that goes into the play as well. So I can say like, I can draw a border in terms of, and I can say like, hey, answer this question based on the context only. Do not use any other information. Or I can say like, hey, answer this question, but keep in mind, this additional context. So add on top of what you have, what you know, or simply focus on the context only and don't answer it if the information is not available in the context. So, and there are different ways to do this, obviously, but that's a little bit into the territory of prompt engineering. So we get the question, we query our data, we get the results and add those results into the prompt. Then we go and query the model, which is in this case, the large language model. We say query. I mean, I'm not sure if that's the right verb to use, but anyway. So we go to the large language model and we say like, hey, this is what we have, and then get the result and send it back. Obviously, this is a simplified flow that only focuses on retrieval augmented generation. Most probably your flow isn't going to be as simple as that. So you might want to have some, I don't know, agentic workflows is what we usually do. But worst case, you might want to have, before sending the results to the client or to the end user, maybe you want to have some kind of an ethical check, compliance check, or whatever, right? Quality check. There can be various things. So the pipeline will not be as simple as this, but for the sake of grounding the LLM, this is the pipeline that we use. And now I'm going to show you how it's done. And I'm going to share the source code. Okay. So let me get rid of this presentation. That's enough theory. Okay. Here's what I have. By the way, if you want to have the source code, I can give that out of the gate. You don't have to wait until the end of the session. Here it is. So go to this repo, look for my name and last name. Then there's a repo called samples. If you go into it, go into OpenAI, and then here go into intro. And these are the notebooks that I will be, going through today. Okay. So you can go and grab those. And this whole stream is being recorded, so don't worry. We can always, go back and grab the URL. Okay, for now, let's focus on what we have. Maybe give me a second. I can make this a little, can I? Oops. Okay, larger so that you can see it easily. Okay. Obviously, I got a Python environment here. I imported some, environment variables and stuff so that I can access everything. So the first thing that I'm doing, and I'm using LangChain just for this example, I have another notebook that does this whole thing with .NET. If you're a .NET shop, this is totally doable. This is exactly the same flow, exactly the same thing done with C#. For now, I'm going to go with Python because that's, in the context of AI, that Python sounds and looks a little bit sexier, I suppose. Okay, let's test this out. The first thing I'm doing is I'm saying, hello, I'm Darren. It says, nice to meet you. Okay, LLM works. Let's go down. So I'm switching to the chat model and going down here. Let's create this one as well. Let's say you're an expert cloud architect in love with Azure. Tell me what NoSQL service is the best for a global deployment. It says Azure Cosmos DB is the one. Okay, yeah, it is correct. Love it. So it works. We switch to the chat interface, and we've given a system prompt. Then we ask a question. It works. Lovely. So now I'm going to start using some prompt templates. I'm going to create a prompt template here that says, you're an expert cloud architect. Explain to me the benefits of the concept. So I'm going to pass the concept and use this prompt to get the result. This is just to make things a little bit simpler. So I'm doing it with Azure Functions in this case. So what's happening simply is, I'm not sure why it's taking this long, by the way. Okay, there we go. So what I'm doing simply is I'm putting Azure Function into this concept template. You're an expert cloud architect in love with Azure. Explain to me the benefits of Azure Function. And there's the result. Okay. So now the next step is kind of trying to chain this prompts maybe. Okay. You're an expert in a blah, 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 educator and trainer. Help the below content. That sounds a little bit weird. Anyways, make it easy to understand for anyone. And then I'm giving it content. So I'm giving it content and saying, hey, make this easy to understand. But look at this. This is the second prompt, a prompt template. The template is here. The input variables are a new concept. Down, I'm creating a chain that takes the output of one prompt and puts into the other one. So when I ask the question like, hey, Azure Function, the first prompt that's going to run is going to be this one. So I will get the explanation of the concept. Then I will have that data sent back and get a much clearer description of the concept. So you might be questioning like, hey, how does this help? I actually have the demo, but I'm not going to go through it just for the sake of time. But here's the deal. When I'm going twice, I'm actually extracting more information and getting it back to the model. So the first time I'm simply asking a question, getting as much information as possible, then getting all of that information and sending it back saying, simplify this. One might argue that this is even an agent flow. Like, in this case, I might even have two different agents doing this work. The end result will be a much more higher quality result. Instead of simply asking, hey, explain me what Azure Function is, like you're an educator. I could have done that in one single shot, but the result will be relatively low quality compared to this one. Okay, so let's see if this runs. Obviously, this is going to take a little bit of time. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is the first output from the first chain, and this is the second one. Okay. So I have this huge amount of information that I extracted first, then I use that information to summarize a more digestible one. Okay, cool. So far so good. We understood the prompts, the templates, and all that, but it's time to bring in new information. So in this case, I have a simple document. You might have millions of documents and all that. I have a single text file just to make things simple, right? For the sake of this demo. So imagine this is a document that I have somewhere out there on a SharePoint site or whatever, right? I want the model to be aware of this when I'm asking questions. That's my goal. So the first thing I have to do is probably crawl this data. But the second thing I have to do, the next thing I have to do is to create embeddings. Embeddings are vector representations of this text. Semantic vector representations. Okay? So every word, it's not necessarily the word, but we have these things called tokens. So when this text is being analyzed, when language is being analyzed by the model, it's being split into tokens based on the frequency. And then every token has a weight. So when we create an embedding, that means we're using the same system to create a semantic vector that represents the meaning of the text. Why would we do this? If I have a way to represent the meaning of this paragraph. What I can do is, when I have a question, I can look at the question and the text's meaning and try to understand if the meaning is semantically, if the language is closer. That's what we wanted, remember. When we had a question, we wanted to bring in data that is contextually related to the question. So in order to accomplish that, we are creating those embedding vectors, and then we are storing them somewhere, which is what we're going to do next, right? And then we will look up and try to find the vector that is closer to the question that we have. So that's our process and our goal. The first step is to create an embedding. So I'm going to run this code right now, and I've read the text file, okay? I'm going to split it into chunks because the whole large file is too large for the context. And, I don't want to dilute the context as well. I don't want to bring a lot of, meaningless data into the context. I really want to, get the part that makes sense. So at this point, I'm going to use a 500 character chunk without an overlap. This might not be the ideal way to do it. And most probably it's not the ideal way because I would suggest having some kind of an overlap. Again, that's outside of the scope for this 25 minutes that we have. But the tricky thing is you are going to need to experiment and test the quality of the results that you get for your own data to be able to decide how you're going to chunk your data, how large the chunks are going to be, and what the overlap should be. Okay, I'm going to put it there and stop there. But this is something that you're going to need to experiment with your own data because it relates to how meaning is distributed in your own data set. So for now, this is the simple structure that I'm using. So once I have the chunks, I'm going to start creating embeddings out of the chunks, those vectors. Okay, that's what's happening here. Run this. You're going to see just one embedding. This is the vector. And you can tell that it has a lot of, it's not just a simple, vector, three-dimensional space. Okay. So now that I have the vector, I have a bunch of vectors actually, because I had multiple chunks. For each chunk, I have a vector and an embedding. They're kind of the same thing, by the way. They are the same thing, like Kaya. They are the same thing. Okay. So let me clear the output here so that we have a better view. Okay. So now my next step, I have to find a database where I can store this, and the database should support vector lookup. And ideally, it should even support hybrid lookup, which means vector and semantic and full text. Yeah, because that gives better results. And Azure AI Search is able to do this. So here, this code is actually creating a vector index that I'm defining on Azure AI Search. Okay, so let me start that. Okay, we're done. Now the next step is to upload the embeddings that I've created, and that's going to be this code. So once you have the index, this uploading embeddings, creating embeddings and uploading embeddings is something that you can do consistently. So you can have a data flow where you're getting new data all the time, right? Every second, every millisecond, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're getting new data all the time. And you're going to have a pipeline where you create embeddings, put it into database, embeddings, put it in database. That's going to keep going. And because if you keep the database up to date with fresh data, that fresh data will be always used by new LLM instances, new users of your LLM, right? It's as easy as that. Bringing new, fresh data is just a small pipeline, getting the data, creating the embedding, putting it in the database. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. So when it comes to reading the data, right? People using the LLM. Here's what's going to happen. So I have this query. Can you provide the timestamp for the most recent information you have on Azure Functions? Please specify the date and time up to your last update. Okay. This is a pretty specific prompt. So I'm simply asking, hey, what is the latest information you have about this topic, about Azure Functions, and what is the date that relates to it? So we will use that question. But the first thing I do was kind of setting up the Azure Search, AI Search access. Okay? Because for this question, what I want to do is to get and find the embeddings that are related to this question. Okay, I have this question. I'm going to go and find the related chunks. That's what I'm doing. Run it. Okay, we got a couple of chunks here. See, I actually asked for 3, so we got 3. And you can see the score for each one, the ranking score. And you can see that in the first chunk, there's actually a date, which is nice. Oh, there's one on the second chunk as well. Huh? Wait a second. Oh, I have populated the index twice. I've run this before the before the session as well. That's why we have the record twice. I have populated the index with the same data twice. It doesn't make sense. So you can see that the third one is actually different. So, but it was able to figure out, bring in the information that has date in it, right? So that explains that it was able to understand that the question was about a date about Azure Functions, and it did bring the segment that has a date about Azure Functions. Obviously, it's not as simple as this, but I'm kind of trying to simplify it so that we can understand. Otherwise, it could take hours, I suppose. Okay, related information found. So now that related information has to be taken into context. So let's do this first. This is the standard GPT output. Again, our own prompt, right? The original prompt, I'm running that against GPT-4. It says 2020. Okay, let's run this again. Okay, the date changes, obviously, but the year is always the same. Okay, So it is kind of a little bit hallucinating, I suppose. There's a little bit of randomness. Oh, 2021. Okay, let's keep trying. We will never get 2023 or 2024. I mean, we could, but it would be pretty unique. Okay. So if you're convinced, let's move on. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to use a template, and this time I'm going to say, hey, I have some context I'm going to give you. This is my prompt. I have some context I'm going to give you. And then I'm saying, here are the rules. You're a helpful agent and answer questions. Learn from the context and answer the following question. And then I'm going to give you the question. Cool. This context is going to come from the database lookup. So here's what I'm doing. I'm getting the top results, the 3 results that I got, into the context, into here, and then asking the same question. And this question will go into the question here. Okay? So the total prompt that I'm sending has contextual data in it because I did a database lookup. So now let me run that. And 23. December 23, and every time I run this, we will always get December 2023. There will be no hallucination. I mean, no one can guarantee it 100%, but it's pretty much no way it's gonna hallucinate. So what I did was I did bring in fresh data into the LLM. I did the grounding through the use of Azure AI Search, creating embeddings, and putting in the database, and having a flow that doesn't only send the question to the LLM, but does a database lookup and adds the contextual data on top of it to ground the LLM. So this is going to help you implement LLMs into your application that are aware of the new stuff or information that only makes sense for your application or information that only your application has. So if I ask like, hey, give me a fitness plan. If you're a fitness app and you know a lot of stuff about the person already, that is the context, right? And you would like to bring that in. So with that was pretty much it. Let me show the URL again. Here we go. This is the repo where you can get all of the code that I've used in this session, and you can always reach out to me, find me on LinkedIn, shoot me if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Doron. First of all, feel free to reach out to Doron social media because there are a lot of great content there about LLMs, but not only LLMs, a lot about container, AKS, building intelligent apps, modernization, great stuff. And this series is like tapas, a lot of small dishes. If you would like to learn more about building an LLM, a software developed application with LLM, we had another series which will be shortly on the chat with a lot of great content, 1 hour content on building apps with the semantic kernel, with LangChain, with other libraries. So feel free to reach out and explore those sessions as well. So thanks again, and we're going to move to the next dish. But before we're going to do that, I would like you to write on chat where you are joining us from around the world. I've seen a lot of cool places, so would like to see some more. And our next speaker is Yair Adato, the CEO and founder of Bria AI. We're going to speak about responsible AI and the importance of that in building and generative AI applications. So thank you, Yair, for joining.
Hi. So thank you for the invitation. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to show you a code. I'm just going to talk about something which I think is important. I'm going to talk about responsible AI and to talk about the connection between responsible AI and generative AI. So let me share my screen. So can you see my screen now? I assume that you see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Thank you very much. So I'm from Bria. We develop a responsible and open generative AI platform. And again, the topic will be responsible AI. It's not necessarily going to be about Bria. So a little bit about me. I have 20 years of experience in the field of computer vision, AI, and ML. I have a PhD in computer vision. I'm based in Israel, soon to move to New York, and I'm with Bria in the last 4 years. So I think that we will start here that all of this LLM and text to image and all of this generative AI are really, really awesome, but we might have some problem. We might have some problem of how it's going to impact many elements of our day-to-day, our society and other. And it's something that we need to think in advance. So let's talk about technology. Technology has always been a driver for a change. This is also true for any type of technology. It always drives an automation. And if we try to think what is the connection between the LLM, text to image, text to video, even generating the proteins and other elements, it's all related to data. So maybe one way to think about the size of this revolution, technology revolution, is to put it on this line where we started about sharing data by inventing writing quite long time ago. And then the next revolution of automation regarding data was when we invented the printing press, and that was the beginning of the modern world, that we take data and we start to automate the process of copying it. Then internet came, and this is data distribution. And now for the first time, we are in the data generation era. And I think that in the last 2 years, it's very clear that it's going to be very, very significant. So with this great opportunity and with this great revolution also came great responsibility. So with great power comes great responsibility. And now is the question of how we approach these challenges. So what is responsible AI? So I used to use this slide to talk about responsible AI and to talk about the different element of that, but actually copy a new slide from Microsoft, and I think that I'm going to start to use this one because I think that this one is mostly better. So responsible AI is an approach of developing an assessment AI in a way that it will be safe and trustworthy. So we're talking about how to create application which will convey a fairness and unbiased elements, how it will be safe for society, how it will be secure and respect privacy and exclusive. And if you think about it, there are actually two layers below that. One layer is the transparency, and the key element, the thing that is most important for me when we're talking about responsible AI is the accountability. How to develop technology application, companies, services, which you take accountability of the impact of this technology. The only thing that I see a little bit different from the page in Microsoft, they talk about ethical AI. And I think that with the word ethical, there is a little bit a challenge. Ethical is very judgmental. And I think that maybe responsible, which means you need to be accountable, is more correct in this domain. So actually, that's all nice and philosophy. Why should I care? Generative AI is doing really, really cool stuff. Huge companies are emerging. The technology is there. Why should I care? So I think that you should care because at the end of the day, it's all about risks. Develop something, create a startup, create application, and then discover that you cannot deploy it because someone is sue you or because it doesn't meet a regulation can be very frustrating moment. And these elements are here, starting from New York Times that just sue OpenAI and Getty Images that sue Midjourney and not Midjourney, sorry, Stability AI and other. And Google recently launched something and they need to apologize and take it back and improve it before they relaunch it. there's a lot of risk of how to develop it in the right way. So one of the big problems when you develop generative AI in general, so I think that it's a little bit different when you talk about LLMs and other type modalities of generative AI, which include um, um, copyrights or privacy. So I'm referring mostly to the visual elements of that. So I think that data ownership, everything related to copyright and trademarks is something which you need to put to think about it. Everything related to privacy and biometrics, it's there. Uh, Data accountability. Does the thing that I generate are fair, biased, misleading, safe? And as I said, that regulation is coming. We will talk about regulation in one slide at the end. There is another element which I think that is really important when, for my opinion, when you talk about responsible AI, and this is the question of whether these foundation model are accessible. Can, as a company, as a startup or developer, can I have access to this model so I can develop my own innovation, or I'm limited with the API, and this is the only way that I can consume this technology? So if you build it and then you will try to fix it, you will discover that it's really, really hard. You will need to have huge investment on prompt safety, how to block prompts which are not appropriate or put you in risk. And if you will try to solve it in a, let's call it a naive solution, you discover that it's actually don't solve the problem. So here is example of one of the common solution to solve the bias element and fairness. And this is from Adobe Firefly. And you see that they are generating, when you ask to generate a doctor, they generated male, female, Caucasian, Latin, Afro-American, Arab, round robin of ethnicity. This is exactly what happened to Google when they created the Black Nazis. So it's complex. It's really hard to solve this problem when you try to fix something that you already broken. Once you create this pop with this Prada white coat, you cannot remove it from the internet after that. So our approach is a little bit different. I will pitch here to something which is a little bit different. I will suggest here to think about responsible AI by design. To think when you develop, when you do the design review, when you do the specification of the product, when you think about the business model that you want to apply, the same as you think about problems like security and privacy and scale, think about responsible AI as part of this domain. Today, no one will do something that contradict the GDPR law because it's clear that you need to do that. And you think about it in advance. Same needs to be, to my point of view, with the responsible AI. So, so here are some things to consider. So when you think about the training set, you should think about, you should ask yourself the question, where the data come from? Is the data subject to privacy protection or the copyright protection? When you train the model, you need to ask yourself, is the model is safe to use? And when you, or fine tune the model. And when you think about the output, you need to ask yourself if this output put my company at risk, or even more than that, does it put my client on risk? So there's many ways to do that in the right way. You just need to think what will be the right model for you. Here's the model that we choose to implement at Bria. So in order to solve the data ownership issue, we did something that most of you probably familiar with. And we get some inspiration for the music streaming 20 years ago, where they started with Pirate Bay and Napster. And then comes Spotify and says data should be rewarded. We currently did the same thing. We develop an attribution engine, and every time that we generate an image using our platform, or if our client generate an image using our platform, We know how to trace back in the training set which are the data owners that should be rewarded, and we pay for them. The same like when you hit a song in Spotify, if you listen to Lady Gaga will get paid. So here's an example. If you will generate the image to the left, 73 different data owners from the training set will get rewarded, but the different image will result different set of data owner and different number of data owner to be rewarded. And with that, we have agreement with almost 20 different image stock provider that also solve elements of public figures and copyright and privacy because it's not in the database. Again, my goal here is not to talk about BRIA. My goal here is to show a framework where you can solve issue of responsible AI when you think about it as part of the problem. The result is that we don't have public figures in the data set, we don't have a copyright infringement, and we don't have a privacy. Last thing that I would say about BRIA is that the code is available as a source code and wait. So if someone wants to develop something with that, more than welcome. And we also have API and the other thing. Let's take 1 minute about regulation, 45 minutes about regulation. There are two big regulations that you need to think about. The first one is around biometrics, consent, and privacy. And the second one is the emerging regulation of AI, like the EU AI Act, which is just approved by European parliaments. It's all, at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's about transparency of the model. It's disclosing where the data came from, and that you need to do to make a real effort to label the AI-generated output as a synthetic and to obey the existing law. Last thing, we just finished a quite big research on the leading text-to-image engine that is out there. The white paper will be ready next week. The data is also available. If someone wants to have it, it's here for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, El. So we discussed in this session about how to build the application, and we spoke right now about responsible AI, about the fairness, transparency, and accountability. And now we're gonna move on to the next session about governance, and I think it gives us a great overview about building an intelligent apps. And we have today with us Erez Kreda, the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of KMS Lighthouse, and Doron Gower, the Chief Solution Architect of KMS Lighthouse. And we really curated and picked carefully an amazing startups for you to learn from, the top startups that we have as part of our startups programs. So you feel free to reach out also on the chat and ask some questions. And moving to you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, excited to be here and run through the KMS Lighthouse approach of how we added a co-pilot experience into our solution. One of the critical areas is how to make sure that you get the benefits of generative AI with the governance, with the rules to ensure the accuracy and the consistency of the results. And that's what we'll cover in the session today. So we are excited to represent KMS Lighthouse. We've been working in the space of knowledge management for a number of years together. And we have seen the need to not only leverage generative AI technologies within the platform, but also to explain to organizations why you need to have that combination between generative AI and knowledge management. And that's hopefully what we'll be able to explain today. So just to give a little bit of background about KMS Lighthouse. So we are a knowledge management company, and we support larger enterprises with their needs to be able to access content at the right time for the right audiences, and to be able to get to that pinpointed area of material. So this is supported by these pillars of the advanced technology of the solution, the customer success, that we transform all of our customers to be our partners, working with enterprises at scale, and then the best practices, methodologies, and processes. And what's really critical for organizations is that ability to have a single source of truth. So when a customer is asking a question from the agent in a call center, or going through digital channels such as a chatbot online, or maybe meeting face-to-face in a branch network or in a retail setting, they have that same accurate response that's provided. They don't need to ask for a specific agent to handle an interaction or go to a specific channel, but there is the same set of information and responses available throughout, which are the approved company responses. And we'll go into that in more details. And that can be both from the internal perspective as well as the external perspective. So employees working from office and home in different settings as well, also having that requirement for access to knowledge. So in terms of our approach is to enhance interactions by empowering whoever needs knowledge, whether that be employees generally, agents as heavy users and use cases of knowledge management, and then end customers via self-service with the ability to access the accurate and consistent answers and get there quickly and easily. So now, how does that relate to generative AI? So number one, generative AI and knowledge management are not the same thing. So generative AI, as we've spoken about today, and we saw the great examples from the previous speakers as well, is all about leveraging a language model to generate an output based on the prompt, based on the input. Whereas knowledge management is a whole system of features and functionalities designed to help organizations manage and share their knowledge content. And features include access controls and analytics and decision trees and feedback and homepages and search and workflows. There's a number of different features and functionalities that are the core of the greatest knowledge management platforms. So the question then is, how is it that you get the benefits that generative AI can provide within the framework of a knowledge management solution? So in terms of the approach that we're taking, a little bit small, but if we ask GPT, that Copilot from Microsoft, that question, leveraging the GPT model, what is the difference? You'll see here that it gives up a few different answers about that. So the models, they don't remember the patterns and the information of where the content is coming from. It's changing each time. It's probabilistic rather than deterministic. And that's really critical, because organizations, especially enterprises, they need to know that this is the exact accurate answer that's being provided for each and every interaction. And for many of the largest organizations, if you're thinking about a large bank or a healthcare organization or an insurance company or a telco, each one of those needs to provide the exact answer to a question. And sometimes the exact answer needs to be in the exact wording and the order of the wording as well. So the comma needs to be in the right place, or the period, or the full stop. So each one of those areas is super critical for organizations. And that's what's really redirected here in this response itself, that you need to have the power and the governance and rules from a knowledge system to be able to give the accuracy and consistency with respect to responses. So if we speak about the KMS Lighthouse approach of how do we get those benefits within the solution and provide those benefits for our partners and clients leveraging the platform, here's the approach that we took. So number one is that, of course, we have a great partnership with Microsoft, and we're leveraging the Azure OpenAI solution. So we're leveraging our partnership both from integrations into other tools and systems from the ecosystem, but also from the technical space within the Azure OpenAI model. So leveraging the partnership from Microsoft with work together from our teams, both at our Innovation Center as well as the Microsoft Innovation Center, to brainstorm and plan and get the best results with the technologies. And there's also a number of different inherent advantages of the Azure OpenAI model and approach, which is also super critical for our decision to move in that direction. And Erez will explain more there.
Sure. So our approach was leveraging the Azure OpenAI. We did a quick POC over a year ago. We went to production about a year ago, actually, within our product. As Doron mentioned, we took a co-pilot approach, since we want to eliminate the hallucination effect that the large language model brings, and also bias. As mentioned, our customers want to have a deterministic result, the deterministic answer, and the wording really care. So we took a different approach. We are enhancing the content offer or the content manager side with a copilot approach. Can we go to the next slide? We build a rapid prototype focusing on the prompts because we want to move fast. As you can see, there is a screenshot of the application we made. It took us, I think, less than a day to develop, basically leveraging all the functionality we want to put within our application and leverage the power of LLM with the power of the end user or the offer to confirm the result. So we're not using OpenAI to get an answer, which is the typical use case you see with most, startup today. We're basically enhancing the man behind the scene that put the content within the application. And if the content gets, better, easier to done, the content get updated faster, better, and you get a better result. If we go to the next one. Next slide. So again, we enhance the offers. We give them a productivity tool in a never seen before, becoming easier and easier to add content. We go with a copilot semi-automated approach, which means there is a human behind every creation. We have behind every feature, there's someone supervised and click I agree without, or can change the result if needed. Again, it's all powered by Azure OpenAI and cognitive services. We leverage GPT-4. We get actually early access to it even over a year ago. We use GPT-32K, which is a larger model. We can put more content inside, as you can see, over around 50 pages. And we're now switching to Turbo, which give you even triple content that the engine can provide.
Thank you. So what's critical for our approach then is those two dimensions. Number one, on the security side, so the benefits and the features baked into the Azure OpenAI approach because of the foundation of the Azure platforms and on all of the key developments undertaken by Microsoft. So that answers the challenge that we see from our clients about how can you be secure about our data? How do we know that our data is not being used to train a model or going outside of the organization? The Azure OpenAI approach answers that checkbox, if you like. The second area, though, as Erez was mentioning, is about how do we overcome the challenges of the hallucinations and making sure that the content is the right content. So the approach that we followed is this copilot approach. And we focused on these 4 areas from the initial features that we've added into our solution. So we'll go through each one of these in a little bit of detail, but the preparation of knowledge summaries. So the ability to take a knowledge article and prepare a Twitter-style summary of that text at the click of a button. It's making life easier, but that's not what's presented to the user until that's been approved by the author. And that's the critical component which goes into each and every one of these features and functionalities. Secondly, in terms of the quality of text, giving options for authors to choose how to enhance their text, how to create a set of FAQs from the click of a button, and then the next area of taking a file, a document, and turning that into a structured knowledge article. So we'll go through what the approach taken was with each and every one of these. So in terms of the article summaries, in the knowledge management space and within the KMS Lighthouse solution, we have a short descriptions. This is a 250 character summary of a knowledge article displayed on the search results page and in a few other areas of the system as well. And it's a really critical area to utilize. So we've made life easier for an author that instead of needing to think and read all of the text and decide which wording will be most valuable to be included in the short description, and then work to make sure that it fits in within the character restriction, making sure that that's done easily. And actually it happens. In many cases, maybe an author would think, oh, I can't be bothered to do this right now, I'll come back to it later. So having that approach, but by clicking a button, a user can create that short description, makes it much easier to achieve. And then the author can review before publishing the article. So let's take an look at it, at how that works. So when we're looking at a knowledge article, we can see here that we have the structure of an article broken down into different tabs and fields. So this is what an end user would see from a knowledge article. And right now in this example, there is no short description. And we'll move over to the different tabs so we can see there's a sizable amount of content. It's not the longest thing in the world, but it's a sizable piece of detail regarding the work from home policy. Now, if we transition over into the authoring side of the solution, we'll see that we have the ability that we can generate this short description. So here, when we're looking at the properties of a knowledge article, we can see that we have a tab, we can see its unique ID, and then we have this button to generate the short description. So when we click this button, sharing over the text to the system, and automatically we get the response. So it's based specifically on the content of this knowledge article, and it's super fast. You know, I didn't manage to finish what I was explaining until we see the example on the page. I can choose to rephrase this. But again, this is not available for the end users until the author chooses to use this, has the option to edit and change. Maybe there's a word here and there that they want to remove or adjust because it's not applicable, and then press save, and then maybe move through a workflow process as well. So it receives approvals from other people within the team before becoming live and published within the system. So designed to be straightforward and easy. If we move over to another area of the solution, is giving the authors the option to define whether they would like a selected piece of text to be improved. So maybe longer, shorter, change and fix the spelling and the grammar, change the tone to summarize a portion of text. So giving the author the option to choose exactly what they need. And here we can see an example of that, where we highlighted a piece of text and we can see that we've now turned this into a casual form. So it's much easier to understand. And you can see the difference. The summary of benefits becomes, here's the lowdown on the goodies you get. So really straightforward, easy to leverage. And again, the author has the final say before the article becomes published. Another feature that we'll look at is regarding FAQs. So we're able to create a set of questions and answers based on the specific content of a knowledge article. So author can press a button, see a set of FAQs generated straight away, easily achieved within the system. And then another area that also is super critical for organizations that are leveraging the solution, the ability to take a document, so a PDF or a file, and convert that into a structured knowledge article. So really easy to choose a file that exists already today and convert that into a structured knowledge article. And a structured knowledge article gives all of the benefits that organizations require, from governance, being able to maintain and build out that article, to maintain different versions and histories of this knowledge article, to segment content so it's available not just the whole article but portions of that content to different teams as and when they need this material. So already straightforward, easy to benefit, easy to achieve, whilst maintaining those key rules of, number one, the security and the integrity of the data, and number two, the assurance that the content is the approved, accurate information that the organization wants to be shared and available both for users internally as well as externally.
And empowered by AI, making life easier for the end user.
Absolutely. So thank you for the chance to share our overview. Happy to take any questions as well from the audience if there are.
Feel free to present the last slide, Yarden, if you'd like. Okay. I wanted to show the thank you of Yair, of the KMS Lighthouse, of Doron and Erez. It was a fascinating session. Thank you so much for sharing with us the key learning about security, about governance, about all of those must-have stuff when you are building those applications. And I also like your creative idea and leveraging in the features of your product. So feel free to check out KMS Lighthouse product. And with that, we would like to conclude the series. Unless we have any questions from the crowd here, then feel free to share them before we move on. Okay. And if not, feel free to scan the QR code for the on-demand session that we had along the series. And we can move on to the next slide. Thanks. Okay, so even though we are wrapping up this series, we also have the 60 days of building intelligent apps. And I saw in the comment that you were asking, what is building intelligent apps? So building intelligent apps is the frame that that Microsoft uses to build an AI application. It means how you are building new apps with AI, and this can be with AI, with Cosmos database and AKS to scale up your application, to make it intelligent, to make it smart. So we had those 6 sessions in our series, but you can also reach out to and check out this link because we have there 60 days of content, whether it's online sessions, blog posts, community where you can ask the experts any questions that you might have. We have their cloud skill challenge, which is the, if you remember, the Microsoft Learn, the learning path to learn those new technology and use it try it out on yes, you can try it out. Yes. So another thing that we can provide you with is if you're a Microsoft account, is the full day of learning. We can see here in March, but on the next sessions that we're going to have through the Reactor, you will be able to see the April ones. And if not, you can also reach out to your account executive or Microsoft representative to ask for the new and upcoming sessions. If you can go back one slide. Yes, thank you. So you can see here we have a great sessions about AI fundamentals. If you liked the first session by Doron about using AI, but also building intelligent apps. So you can find some of those sessions, but and obviously about AKS and DevOps. But it's not limited only to this solution area. You can also find full day of training for data, for infra, security, modern work. We spoke about Copilot in the previous session. So we have Copilot in a lot of areas in our Microsoft stack. So you can definitely register to those sessions. And you would see them also on the Reactor site soon. Okay, so Adi, I really like this series. I really like all the content that you presented here. What's now? What's next? So if you are a Microsoft customer, you can also request an Envision workshop. You can sit down with Microsoft account executive or through the Microsoft Technology Center and envisioning how you are leveraging the AI and thinking how you can incorporate it into your products to see business growth. And then you can leverage the Microsoft Partners ecosystem to get grants for building up a POC for your proof of concept for your product. So you can go to the Microsoft Partners portal or to aka.ms/Azure Innovate offering to understand and learn more about this offering, and then move it to production with another big grant and funds to build and create and take your products to live on scale with those kind of offering. And we spoke a lot today about AI. So we wanted to equip you with this cheat sheet of AI Learning Companion. So all the links that you will see in this PDF they are directing you to Microsoft Learn, and you can learn more about responsible AI that we spoke earlier about, Microsoft governance. There is a learning path for AI engineers, for business acumen that only want to understand what kind of case studies you can create with Microsoft, with the Azure AI Studio. If you want to create with the Azure Copilot, to create your own Copilot for your business. So you have it all on the QR, in this QR code. And in this QR code, you also have the opportunity to register to the Microsoft Developers Newsletter to learn about the upcoming events. We have Build coming up soon, our Microsoft Developer Conference. So you can register to that and get all the information about the new products, the new events, as well as there is a link there for the Microsoft Reactor to find more events that's relevant to you. Feel free to scan it. And if we have, so today we had amazing 2 startups, and if we have in the crowd more founders that want to understand what program, what offering Microsoft have for founders, so you can go to scan this QR code or go to acad.ms/founders app and learn more about the program. And in this program, you can get credit, Azure credit, from 1K thousand to 150,000, where you can get those credits from idea on the map for ideation, and then to develop your POC until grow and scale your application. But not only the credit, what you will find there is a net of experts. You will find their ability to use third-party product and software programs that will scale your application. From LinkedIn, which is first party, it's Microsoft, to additional one that are not Microsoft softwares. Okay, so thank you so much, Erden. You are welcome to join me, and we are really grateful for having you joining us today and throughout the whole series. We will share on the chat now. Yes, hello, Erden. We're gonna share on the chat a link to survey. We would like to hear your thought. What is it that you need? What is it that you want us to produce? We are here to support the developers community. We want to bring you the best case studies around the world, so you will be able to learn and to grow your application, to grow your knowledge. And we're cooking really amazing stuff for the next series. So stay tuned. Thank you, Elden. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, KMS Lighthouse, for joining, and Daron, and have a great
Thank you all.